together properly. Tell you what, we'll do the left side because the picture 309 is showing you the left half of the brain. So left side view. There's a good reason why they're using the left side that I'll mention as we go along. So looking at the list of bullet points, Broca's speech area, which I noticed the dotted area. So that would be number 7 on there. Where would it be here? Broca's speech area would be, watch what I'm doing, right. Oops, I beg your pardon, Broca's speech area. Close, that was close. Broca's speech area would be right here. So the red and the salmon pink. There'll be a little patch of cortex right here. Frontal lobe. So this is central. So this is the left central sulcus. This is the left precentral gyrus. The red is the left precentral gyrus. The purple is the left postcentral gyrus. So this red precentral gyrus is part of the left frontal lobe. The point being, Broca's area is a patch of surface gray matter, cortex, right here. Left side in the large majority of the population. And Broca's speech area, or the motor speech area, is responsible for me talking to you right now. Broca's speech area controls the muscles of speech, and so you will be using something else to understand what I'm saying to you. You'll be using Wernicke's for that function. Central sulcus, we just did. Primary auditory area. Let's find the primary auditory area. The primary auditory area would be, well, anybody tell me which lobe this is in yellow? The left temporal lobe. All the yellow is left temporal lobe. All the yellow here. Excuse me. And we've got a bulge right there. That would be the superior temporal gyrus, or the superior gyrus of the temporal lobe. The point of that is the cortex here is auditory. The surface gray matter, that's what cortex is, surface gray matter, very, very thin surface gray matter of the brain. The cortex of the superior temporal gyrus is auditory, hearing in function. So, in the center of the lobe, right there, is the primary auditory area. A little bit of cortex right here would be the primary auditory area, cortex. The rest of the cortex, the remaining cortex, would be the auditory association area. So on page 309, number 8 is pointing to what?
Primary auditory.
Primary auditory area. That's the darker green. What's the pale green surrounding it? The darker green that the line from number 8 is pointing to, primary auditory area. The lighter green surrounding the darker green is the auditory association area. Label it. Make sure you know the auditory association area. What's the difference? Here's the key difference. The primary auditory area is necessary for processing sounds, for being able to hear any sounds at all. The surrounding auditory association area, that's necessary for interpreting sound, being able to learn the difference between one sound and another. So damage to the primary auditory, extensive damage to the primary auditory area, you would go deaf. Leave that primary auditory area cortex intact, but extensively damage the surrounding cortex of the rest of the gyrus, the auditory association area. You would hear sounds, but you would no longer be able to tell one sound from another. You would be functionally deaf in a way. Okay, let's see. Primary gustatory area, going down our list of bullet points in alphabetical order. Primary gustatory area would be here. See this purple? Purple would represent the left postcentral gyrus, the base of both postcentral gyri, not just the left one, but the other side as well. The cortex at the base of each postcentral gyrus. That cortex is the primary gustatory area for the sense of taste. Being able to taste things. So the taste buds are important, but you also need this region of cortex as well to be able to. You have to have the pathway connecting from the taste buds to here, to be able to taste things. Primary motor area, our next bullet point, the primary motor area would be all of the red that you see here. So this red bulge is the left precentral gyrus. The cortex, the surface gray matter of this bulge, is the primary motor area. So what does this cortex control? It controls all of the skeletal muscles on the right side of the midline. So which side is this cortex on? I'm running the tip over which side of the midline. Left or right?
Left.
This is the left side. So what was the point of what I just said? The left primary motor area cortex controls the right side skeletal muscles. And the right primary motor area cortex controls the left side skeletal muscles. How's that possible? Commissures crossing the midline. You're conducting downward, and then eventually you've got to go through a commissure to get to the other side. Okay, a primary somatosensory area. See the purple? Well, this purple bulge is the left postcentral gyrus, and the cortex, the surface gray matter of the postcentral gyrus, is the primary somatosensory area. What does that mean? Well, this red cortex would be conducting down and eventually would find its way out to skeletal muscles on the other side of the midline. This purple cortex represents the end of the line coming up. So this would be the start of a descending pathway. This would be the end of an ascending pathway. Totally different. Motor pathway beginning here, sensory pathway ending here in the primary somatosensory area cortex. And what senses in particular? Somatic senses, senses we are consciously aware of. Touch, for example. Well, actually, I should say not all senses we're consciously aware of, but all the senses that have receptors scattered over the body. So there are touch sensors all over the body. There are temperature sensors all over the body. Pressure, vibration, ticklishness, pain. Those are all somatic senses. And all of those senses converge here and here. With what exception? The very, very base is where the taste cortex, gustatory area is. Let's see, primary visual area. Primary visual area, well, we would see the green would be, all of this would be the left occipital lobe. Here we have the right occipital lobe. And the green surface would be the occipital lobe cortex. And so the entire occipital lobe cortex, left lobe, right lobe, is visual in function. But you've got the primary visual area cortex, which is just here, not the entire surface of the lobe, but just here, left side, and just here, right side. So what do we have? What's the cortex of the rest of the two occipital lobes responsible for? The primary, the visual association area, which was added up there in blue on the right side board. So primary visual area, necessary to be able to see anything. The surrounding visual association area, necessary to be able to tell what we see apart. In other words, being able to interpret faces, objects, etc., be able to tell one thing or another by sight, requires the surrounding visual association area cortex. So the primary visual area is this cortex here, and the rest of the cortex is the visual association area in both lobes. Okay, let's see. The Wernicke's area would overlap two lobes. The cortex known as Wernicke's area overlaps the left, and most people, the left temporal lobe and the left parietal lobe. So it would actually be here, right there, would be Wernicke's area. So it goes a little bit into the temporal lobe here and up into the parietal lobe there. So Wernicke's area is a patch of cortex, typically just left side, that overlaps temporal and parietal lobe. Its function, this is the sensory speech area. So Wernicke's area is involved in, see, I'm using Broca's here, guys. Remember Broca's? I'm using Broca's area cortex to talk to you. And you, whether you know it or not, are using Wernicke's area cortex to understand what I'm saying to you, or to understand what you're reading. So it's a language sensory area, language association area. Okay? And one more thing. I had given you one more term, somatosensory association area. Where's that? Remember, you've got the primary somatosensory area cortex here. Incoming, ascending pathways from touch receptors, pressure receptors, vibration receptors, pain receptors. The list goes on. And then behind it, the rest of the parietal lobe cortex is the somatosensory association area for the interpretation of all of that. I reach in my right front pants pocket, and I feel something in the pocket, and I know what it is without even having to pull it out because I know what my penknife feels like. Okay? So this is where you learn to tell the feel of one thing from another, for example, the somatosensory association area.
So it's that pale thing all right here.
Yeah, basically all of the beige outside Wernicke's area. So Wernicke's area has the dotted line. See number 7, Wernicke's area?